Hello, and welcome to Spoonfed, where I spoon-feed you information about games that I love. The year is 1997. Men in Black is tearing through the box office, Wu-Tang is forever, and video games are in a state of evolution. Gone are the days of platforming and shooting bad guys. The public wants more sophisticated ideas, like platforming and shooting bad guys, but this time in 3D. Games like Quake 2, Rebel Moon Uprising, and System Shock all showed the natural evolution of the FPS genre and how, in this new age of gaming, you need to evolve or die. In the same year, a handful of game devs from Looking Glass Studios, the creators of the aforementioned System Shock, were chosen to lead the shiny new subsidiary known as Irrational Games. Composed of 3 members, founder Ken Levine, Jonathan Shea, and Robert Vermeer. Vermeer? Through the power of their newfound game studio, they helped co-develop a new game with Looking Glass Studios. A game that, to call groundbreaking, would be a severe understatement. That game was System Shock 2. As a sequel to the already revolutionary title of System Shock, what with its in-depth gameplay and 3D physics engine, the sequel had a lot to live up to. But it didn't just live, it thrived, surpassing its sequel in critical acclaim. There's a good reason why, when you look at the list of the best games ever made, System Shock 2 tends to be near the top of the list. But that's not the game we're talking about today, because critical acclaim can only get you so far when you fail to meet commercial goals. So the plans for Irrational Games to make a sequel were sadly tossed in the trash, like a half-eaten, perfectly good burger. However, while Irrational Games went on to create other titles, Levine was still itching to make some kind of follow-up, some kind of spiritual successor to System Shock 2. Quote, "We'd done System Shock 2, and we discovered something that worked very efficiently. You were in this isolated spot on this spaceship, so we could simulate that spaceship completely, at least at the time. We never ran into the situation where you're in New York and all of a sudden there's this Jersey barrier you can't go over, or there's this person coming down the street who you can't interact with in a way that you would in real life. I wanted some place where the player would be cut off from the rest of the world, which we could simulate incredibly deeply. I had this notion of an underwater city." See, Levine was a bit of a bookworm in his free time and enjoyed the works of various authors, including Ayn Rand and George Orwell. In particular, he was fascinated by dystopian writings like 1984 and Logan's Run, societies with, quote, "interesting ideas screwed up by the fact that we're people." Combining that with Levine's interest in the morals of stem cell research and the Art Deco style of the nearby Rockefeller Center, Levine's brain tossed all these into his pot and began brewing something that was unheard in the gaming world. A new kind of FPS. It was in 2004 where Irrational Games would announce Bioshock proper, with Levine himself describing it as, quote, "a modern-day nightmare of the terrifying nexus between religious fanaticism and unbound science in an undersea complex." Behind the scenes, however, the team was struggling, the beginning of a project always being the biggest hiccup to overcome. Gameplay stagnated as long gray corridors filled with mutants that resembled games that had been done again and again. It wasn't meeting the next-gen standard that Levine was really working for. You can actually find the original pitch for Bioshock online, and it's really fascinating. It's like this surreal glimpse into an alternate reality of what could have been. You play as Carlos Coelho, this deprogrammer who finds cultists and undoes their brainwashing, and on your way to an island called Salvacion, where you're trying to find a young woman indoctrinated by a cult called Serene Dawn. The plane crashes, sends you to hell, and all of a sudden, you have to fight through these mutated freaks and this island nightmare. The blueprints for Bioshock are pretty clear, with, a few concepts lost along the way. There was once going to be this really in-depth biomodding system where you would slowly add to yourself in these bizarre mutations that would gradually eat away at your humanity in order for you to survive. There was also this in-depth weapon customization system with different types of ammo and weapon types that would be faring better against some kinds of armor than others, or some enemies would be resistant and some enemies would be weak, and It's a really good read if you can find it. Come 2006, and the game is finally beginning to take its shape, with a big idea of the game being this control phrase that would guide the player without them knowing. Phrases considered were Sedo Maiori, meaning I submit to a superior, and Excelsior, meaning over God. However, both of these were canned, as it's kind of hard to slip Excelsior into a normal conversation and not feel like you're being tricked. They needed something casual, something that could be slipped into a sentence without you blinking an eye. It was right before E3 2006, where Levine was brainstorming a tagline to the game that they got their answer. The original and really lengthy tagline to Bioshock was, "Would you kill people, even innocent people, to survive?" Which, over the course of a year of development, gradually mutated into the more casual-sounding, "Would you kindly?" Other concepts of the game similarly evolved throughout development, like the iconic Little Sisters. Originally, the girls were these giant armored slugs that you had to harvest, but eventually the team decided that you'd sympathize with them more if they were, human. The idea of saving the Little Sisters was originally through a plasmid that would forcibly expel the atom-carrying sea slug from their body in this really painful extraction that would not only anger the Big Daddy, causing a fight, but also really make you wonder if killing them would be more merciful. The enemies of the game were no stranger to their own series of modifications during development, with the titular splicers starting as unrecognizable mutants made of fleshy protrusions and seemingly infused with the DNA of various marine life. In the HD collection, you can actually view a couple of these rendered in 3D for the first time, and they're really fascinating. And with all this talk of enemy design, you can't get real far without mentioning the biggest of big bads, the Big Daddies. The changes are far less dramatic than the splicers, but they're still very noticeable, with the bouncer lacking his iconic drill hand in exchange for two very large flat-headed drills adorning each arm. This was changed to the singular drill arm, however, as they needed some way to interact with the Little Sisters. There's also an entire type of Big Daddy that went unfinished, this slug bug, a grotesque parasite bursting out of its shattered helmet and wrapping around its upper body, and its arms reduced to these gross little hooks. Ugh. As enemies were tweaked and concepts were refined, the time to release just kept marching on and on, time marching straight forward like an arrow. As the release date crept forward, the tension within Irrational Games began to bubble. One such incident was during the creation of a demo for the gaming magazine Game Informer to play and review. While brainstorming for a way to highlight the game's enemy AI, one developer mentioned the cyborg ninjas from System Shock 2, to which Levine repeatedly threw his glasses at the ground and screamed, "I don't want to hear anything about any cyborg ninjas," and stormed out of the room. After being given a gracious 3 extra months to polish the game, the team doubled down on their efforts, gritting their teeth through the feedback given to them through game testers, recasting characters, redoing dialogue, redoing lighting, until finally the day had come. August 21st, 2007. The game Bioshock is released to the public.
They told me, "Son, you're special. You were born to do great things." You know what? They were right.
You emerge amidst the flaming wreckage of your flight, delirious and out of breath. You swim forward as fire rises around you, covering the tides of black ocean in bright orange flame. It's then that you spot your salvation, a lone lighthouse. With no other option and your limbs quickly getting fatigued, You swim towards it. Walking inside, the ominous brass doors give way to an empty black abyss. Then, lights. And a banner, hung underneath an imposing statue of immense spiteful glare. No gods or kings, only man. Below the statue lies a plaque reading, "In what country is there a place for people like me, Andrew Ryan?" It's nice to have a name to the face greeting us in any case. Walking past the statue and down a set of stairs, we're greeted by an odd sight. A large brass orb adorned with lights and a glass hatched door. It lies, motionless on top of the waves as peaceful music plays from within. Some kind of vehicle, perhaps? With this being the only way forward, we step inside as the hatch closes behind us, and the orb sinks deep into the sea. Fathom after fathom passes. 10, 18, before we're interrupted by a projector and a cheerful jingle. Along with a very special message from a very special man.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose rapture. A city where the artist would not fear the censor, where the scientist would not be bound by petty morality, where the great would not be constrained by the small. And with the sweat of your brow, rapture can become your city as well.
Floating through the city aimlessly, we catch sight of an imposing figure within a glass hallway, welding a crack within it. A radio frequency cuts through the ambiance of the ocean, a conversation between two people.
The lighthouse is all lit up like hellfire. Looks like some kind of plane crash. Here in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. How could it? I don't know. You best get over there. And be quick about it. The splicers are coming. You're kidding. How do you know this was coming? Because we all want to hear the lighthouse. That means we've got company.
The bathysphere rises, and your would-be savior, a man named Johnny, is brutally ripped to shreds right in front of you by one of these so-called splicers.
No trespass. Just don't hurt me. Just let me go. You my gun.
It's not long after his death that she catches your scent.
Someone new.
With her onslaught ineffective, the splicer flees, allowing you to speak to the man Johnny was talking to before his death, Atlas.
Radio. I don't know how you survived that plane crash, but I've never been one to question Providence. I'm Atlas, and I aim to keep you alive. Now keep on moving. We're gonna have to get you to higher ground.
Serving as your man in the chair throughout the entire game, Atlas attempts to guide you to a safer area, asking you to trust him as he uses you to lure the splicer back out.
Now, would you kindly find a crowbar or something? Bloody splicer sealed Johnny in before they... Goddamn splicers.
Grabbing a wrench, you proceed forward, killing a splicer who attempts to ambush you at the top of the stairs. Your wrench acts as your one and only melee weapon, usually ineffective as soon as you get your hands on a firearm, but can be spruced up later to be a surprisingly lethal answer to basically anything. Granted, you don't mind getting some hits in yourself. It's then, in the silence of the city, that a jingle catches your ear, a sickeningly cheerful tune from upstairs. A vending machine, called Gatherer's Garden. You take the hypo from the machine and, with little to no hesitation, jam it into your arm.
Steady now. Your genetic code is being rewritten. Just hold on and everything will be fine.
You slip in and out of consciousness, vision blurred as your body is visited first by a group of splicers, and then...
Look, Mr. Bubbles, it's an angel. I can see light coming from his belly. Wait a minute, he's still breathing. It's alright. I know he'll be an angel soon.
You awake, vision blurred and your left hand crackling with newfound power, lightning surging from your fingertips. This is Electrobolt, and it's your first plasmid, being basically this game's magic system, almost. As your first plasmid, its versatility is invaluable, being able to short-circuit machines, opening malfunctioning doors, stunning enemies, and it can even outright kill enemies who are staying in pools of water. As such, it's a plasmid that never truly leaves your side. It also has a bonus, making enemies take extra damage from your wrench as long as they're stunned. This is known quite accurately as the
1-2 punch!
It's not without limits, however, as your plasmids run on Eve, this blue liquid found throughout Rapture and essentially serving as ammo for your plasmids. Wandering forward, Atlas begins to open up to you, asking a pretty big favor in the form of you finding his wife and child. With no other option and owing him your life, you silently agree to help him. Killing the unaware splicer, you receive your first firearm, the pistol, a revolver that's better than nothing. In all seriousness, a ranged option is pretty nice to have, especially as you wander the isolated and destroyed halls of the city. A party hall lies in ruins, rubble and blood strewn about like a war suddenly broke out. An audio log laying nearby may just have the answer.
Another New Year's, another night alone. I'm out and you're stuck in Hephaestus, working. Imagine my surprise. I guess I'll have another drink. Here's a toast to Diane McClintock, silliest girl in Rapture. Silly enough to fall in love with Andrew Ryan. Silly enough. What happened? I'm bleeding. Oh God. What's happening?
Something happened here, if it wasn't already obvious by the violent mutants attempting to kill you as soon as you arrived. What once was a utopia seemingly all fell apart in a single day, on New Year's Eve, no less. The area also gives us a time frame befitting to the Art Deco, sometime after 1959. Traversing further into the ruins of Rapture, you come across what looks to be a child before Atlas quickly cuts in to inform you otherwise. You quickly come to learn why Alice was so insistent on avoiding the little sister altogether, as her guardian soon makes an appearance to protect her.
That's the big daddy. She got it on him. He keeps her safe.
Attempting to cut through Neptune's bounty, you're cut off from entry as the security lockdown engages and quickly surrounded by splicers eager to kill the newcomer. Fighting them off, Atlas urges you to run to the medical pavilion as it's the only way to shut down the security lockdown. Just as you're about to leave, the door in front of you locks and you're cornered by the founder of Rapture himself, Andrew Ryan.
So tell me, friend, which one of the bitches sent you? The KGB wolf or the CIA jackal? Here's the news. Rapture isn't some sunken ship for you to plunder. And Andrew Ryan isn't a giddy socialite who can be strapped around by government muscle. And with that, farewell, or до свидания, whichever.
A trip to fresh air and save up to see Steinberg. He'll be knocking at my door.
Atlas manages to override the door lock, and you flee before the horde of splicers can tear you into bloody ribbons.
Now you've met Andrew Ryan, the bloody king of Rapture. Now find your way to emergency access.
The task ahead is, luckily, self-explanatory. Find the emergency override for the security lockdown and get to Neptune's bounty. But, of course, it's not so simple. As soon as we attempt to lift the lockdown, we're denied access and require one Dr. Steinman's key in order to lift the alarm properly. We do receive a consolation prize in the form of our second firearm, the machine gun. Fighting off a group of splicers with our brand new toy, we manage to slip inside the medical pavilion.
You promised me pretty, Steinman. You promised me pretty. Now look at me. Look at me.
The Pavilion acts as Bioshock's first proper demonstration of its gameplay, and it's a great opener to the rest of the game. Branching corridors are either locked or blocked off, requiring codes, doors, hidden vents, or new plasmids in order to access them. This is also where we get to play with Bioshock's core mechanics, hacking. Basically any machine, bots, turrets, cameras, vending machines, safes, even locks, can be hacked via a timed minigame where you arrange tubes in order to make a path from start to finish. Successfully hacking something can lead to different outcomes depending on the machine in question, with vending machines granting discounts and free items, turrets, bots, and cameras switching sides, and safes and doors just outright opening for you. There's also rare items called auto-hack tools that are self-explanatory, and you have the option to buy out whatever you're hacking if you've got cash burning a hole in your pocket. Traversing the pavilion, it's not long until you're cut off by a grenadier haphazardly tossing a bomb at a door, impeding your progress with a pile of rubble your wrench can't solve alone. So, you backtrack, likely taking notice of the few corridors blocked off to you by thick walls of ice. Determined to push forward, you enter the crematorium, hiding from or hacking various cameras as you make your way through and pick up what's likely going to be your first gene tonic. Gene tonics are your way of customizing your playstyle throughout Bioshock, there being 3 distinct classes of tonics. Combat, which directly improve or modify your offensive/defensive capabilities. Physical, allowing for other physical properties relating to your health and EVE counter. And engineering, which improves how you interact with machines of any kind. Making your way to the second floor, you find your second plasmid, and it's yet another reliable one, both in combat and exploration. Incinerate can set people ablaze for a nice damage over time effect, sure, but it can also melt ice and set puddles of oil on fire for a huge damaging area of flame. Now able to melt through the iced over doors, you're able to loot previously inaccessible areas and receive what's, in my opinion, the most reliable weapon in the entire game, the shotgun. Don't let this sudden ambush in the shadows fool you. A single shot from your new weapon can decimate the health bars of anything, flesh or metal. After demonstrating the power of the shotgun properly, you cut through the dentist's office and receive your last mandatory plasmid, telekinesis. While you're unable to strangle people from afar or throw them like ragdolls, telekinesis makes up for its lack of damage and utility, being able to grab projectiles like grenades and toss them back, or use explosive barrels like missiles. With your path forward now clear thanks to the grenade of a helpful splicer, you move deeper into Steinman's personal office as he attempts to stop you, and you get a pretty clear picture of what kind of medical malpractice he's been up to since the fall of Rapture.
Aphrodite is walking the hall. before. Just open your eyes, and when I see her, she cuts me into 1,000 beautiful pieces.
The horrors don't end there, though, as walking to the viewing room allows you front row seats to Steinman's depravity.
What can I do with this one, Aphrodite? She won't stay still! I want to make them beautiful, but they always turn out wrong! That one too fat! This one too tall! This one too symmetrical! And now, what's this goddess? An intruder! He is ugly! 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 Ugly!
Your pride thoroughly wounded by his words, do the only responsible thing in this situation, and shoot him until he dies. Despite him lurking and looming over you for the entirety of the pavilion, Steinman acts more like a mini-boss, being fairly easy to take care of. With his access key now yours, you try to make your way back, only for a sudden tunnel collapse to send you off course, met with a dead Big Daddy and one of our most important characters thus far.
Easy now, Doctor. He's just looking for a wee bit of Adam. Just enough to get by.
I'll not have him hurt my little ones.
It's okay, lad. That's not a child. Not anymore, it ain't. Dr. Tenenbaum saw to that.
Bitte, do not hurt her. Have me no heart.
Aye, that's a pretty sermon coming from the ghoul who cooked up them creatures in the first place. Took fine little girls and turned them into that, didn't you? Listen to me, Boyle. You won't survive without the Adam those things are carrying. Are you prepared to trade your life, the lives of my wife and child, for Tenenbaum's Frankenstein?
Here. There is another one. Use this. Free them from their torment. I will make it to be worth your while. Somehow.
With Atlas and Tenenbaum acting as your devil and angel on your shoulders, you're confronted with your first choice. To either rescue the little sister, purging the Adam from her body and returning her to normal for a lesser reward, or harvest her, killing her but gaining a greater reward of Adam. These choices do affect the ending and various bits of dialogue throughout the story. For the purposes of this playthrough, I found that rescuing the little sisters was the better option, not only morally, but because of the additional rewards Tenenbaum sends to you to make up for the Adam you're missing out on not harvesting them. With the first little sister taken care of, you gain access to the Gatherer's Garden, a vending machine that allows you to use Adam as currency, allowing you to buy slots for more tonics or plasmids, upgrade your health and Eve, buy new plasmids, or even upgrade existing ones. You're gonna need those upgrades too, as your next task is to kill your first Big Daddy, in order to rescue or harvest the little sisters guarding. The first Big Daddy fight is rough. It has high damage output, a large health bar, and surprising speed, making it a force to be reckoned with. The Bouncer's Drill is more than enough to shred you to bits if you're not careful. If you ended up hacking the turrets around the pavilion instead of destroying them, the fight becomes marginally easier. His full focus is taken off you, and the extra firepower beginning to tip the fight into your favor. Eventually, the brass beast falls, and you get another batch of Adam to play with. Wounded and low on ammo from the fight, it'd be wise to restock from one of the vending machines before you march forward. Key in hand, you disengage the lockdown and enter the bathysphere, finally bound for Neptune's bounty.
Now you've had the pleasure of Andrew Ryan's company. He's the one who built this place, and he's the one who ran it into the ground. Nobody knows exactly what happened. Maybe he went mad. Maybe the power got to him. Maybe he just decided he didn't like people. Whichever way you slice it, good men died. Me family's in a submarine hidden in the foundation of Fontaine Fisheries. I'll meet you there.
With Atlas reminding you of your goal, you trudge onwards, past a few corpses strewn about the ground, including the body of a new type of Big Daddy, the Rosie. Lacking the drill, the Rosie has both of its hands, and instead carries a rivet gun, allowing for long-range attacks like firing the aforementioned rivet gun, or just tossing proximity mines at you. Walking forward, it becomes obvious that you're being watched. Based on the figure's agility and pair of hooked hands, it can be surmised this is the same kind of splicer that greeted you into the city. However, they flee before you can investigate properly. Entering the lower wharf, you're met by your first living Rosie, the level presenting its first little sister front and center, trying to get you accustomed to the wandering big daddies. Into the bowels of Fontaine Fisheries, it becomes obvious that you're still being followed, haunted by whispered poems and red petals. You press onwards, using your wrench to knock on the locked door ahead and being met with another interesting character, Peach Wilkins. Demanding a research camera, it's not long after that the threat shows its face, a fast, violent thing assailing you with hooks while being an absolute bullet sponge. Luckily, Wilkins takes it easy on you, scaring her off with a security bot before giving you a new toy in the form of a grenade launcher, and a new task before you to be let in. Using the research camera, he wants you to take a few snapshots of these so-called spider splicers. Before you leave, Wilkins mentions someone in particular, Fontaine. A man who, despite being dead for months, still makes just about everyone paranoid by name alone, including Andrew Ryan himself. Depending on if you've been rescuing the little sisters you're coming across or not, Tenenbaum may contact you and thank you for being kind, leaving a goodie bag at your nearest gatherer's garden. These gifts typically include some Adam, a gene tonic, and sometimes an exclusive plasmid, this one being Hypnotized Big Daddy, allowing you to briefly turn the Big Daddy onto your side. The research camera you're looking for isn't just any camera either, apparently being able to analyze genetic information from a single photo. Sure enough, taking a photo of an enemy builds up a small meteor that, after filling up, will give you a damage bonus against them, along with various other goodies depending on the enemy that you've scanned. While you're trying to take a photo of 3 separate spider splicers for Wilkins, you might come across a stray audio log giving some background to just what Adam really is.
This little sea slug has come along and glued together all the crazy ideas I've had since the war. It doesn't just heal damaged cells, it resurrects them. I can bend the double helix. Black can be reborn white, tall, short, weak, strong. But the slugs alone are not enough. I'll need money. And one other thing.
Tenenbaum discovered the slugs containing Adam and, shocked by the ease they get warped DNA, set out to find funding and something else peculiar. In any case, you photograph the spider splicers, and likely a few others in order to deal more damage, and Atlas tells you to head on back to Wilkins so you can pass through Fontaine Fisheries. Fighting your way back, Wilkins invites you in, before telling you to dump all of your weapons at the door. Seems Atlas wasn't kidding when he told you to keep an eye on him. Walking into the iced over fishery, the fog overtakes your vision as Wilkins begins to taunt you, accusing you of working for Fontaine, before releasing a few splices upon you and coming down himself. With just plasmids and hacking, you manage to kill him and his lackey. Heading downstairs, your weapons await your arrival, their location directly in front of a new type of vending machine. Power to the People machine. The Power to the People machines are how you upgrade your weapons, with every weapon having 2 upgrades that change both the stats and the look of your weapon selected. With your weapon of choice upgraded, you head deeper into the belly of the beast, with Atlas saying it'll be smooth sailing from here. Saying he's in front of the submarine with his wife and daughter within, he tells you that he can't get in without you flipping a switch inside the control room. That's when Andrew Ryan cuts in, claiming that if you flip that switch, you'll truly understand what being his enemy means. With Atlas surrounded by splicers, he falls back, begging you to save his family and get out as soon as you can. Fighting through Ryan's forces, you approach the sub to try and...
assassin, and then you try to sneak out like a thief. You're no CIA spook. Who are you? Why have you come here? There's two ways to deal with a mystery. Uncover it, or eliminate it.
Atlas begs you to get to Arcadia, clearly broken from the knowledge that his wife and child are gone, that he was too late. And so, you head to Arcadia.
Moira. Patrick. Ain't that just like Ryan? Waits until we're almost out, and then he pulls the string. We'll find the bastard. We'll find him, and we'll tear his heart out.
The tension has never been higher in the story. With his family dead, Atlas changes from being concerned for their well-being to fully focused on revenge, and you likely are too. Entering Arcadia, you're met with a strange sight. Green, and lots of it. With healthy trees reaching the ceiling, moss hanging from the walls, even the ground being covered in lush grass. Becoming accustomed to your surroundings, you may stumble across yet another tape from Tenenbaum.
The augmentation procedure is a success. The slugs alone could not provide enough atom for serious work, but combined with the host, now we have something. The slug is embedded in the lining of the host's stomach, and after the host feeds, we induce regurgitation. And then we have 20-30 times yield of usable atom. The problem now is the shortage of hosts. Fontaine says patience, Tannenbaum. Soon, the first home for little sisters will open, and that problem will be solved.
Seems Tenenbaum's compassion for the little sisters has to do with her hand in creating them, using them as hosts for the slugs in order to bolster atom production. She wasn't alone either, receiving a helping hand from who else but this mysterious Fontaine, who planned on opening what sounds like a home for children specifically for creating little sisters. Dark. As you make your way through the grassy halls, you get repeated glimpses of a distant splicer who disappears before you can get close before attempting to ambush you with a ball of flames. This is the last of the special splicer types, the Houdini splicer. They tend to be like their namesake in that they're finicky little escape artists, but less like their namesake in that they can teleport and assault you using fire. Deeper into Arcadia, you come across posters depicting Atlas, who then explains that he used to be involved in politics before becoming disillusioned with it all, now just seeking freedom from the shackles of Rapture. You pass through rolling hills to get to the Bathysphere station, before Ryan decides to chime in with a story.
On the surface, I once bought a forest. The parasites claimed that the land belonged to God and demanded that I establish a public park there. Why? So the rabble could stand slack-jawed under the canopy and pretend that it was paradise earned. When Congress moved to nationalize my forest, I burnt it to the ground. God did not plant the seeds of this Arcadia. I did.
It seems like his forest and Rapture may end up with the same fate, as Ryan fills Arcadia with a toxic gas to kill the forest. With the realization that the trees acted as Rapture's entire oxygen supply, Atlas tells you to seek out Langford, the lead botanist in charge of Arcadia.
My trees! It wasn't you, was it? No. Ryan. I think I've got a way to save the trees. It's a genetic vector that... Oh, look who I'm talking to. Could you find a sample of Rosa Gallica for me? Look in the grotto. I've got to keep working while there's time.
With yet another MacGuffin to grab, you march off towards the grotto to find Langford her flower, only slightly choking to death on the toxic fumes filling the halls. Dotted throughout Arcadia, you may find one of these Houdini caves, small outposts with religious idols and some loot that are defended by the titular splicers. By now, you'll also have noticed a new vending machine popping around Arcadia, along with items you seemingly can't use. The You Invent machine acts as your crafting bench and can be a huge help in crafting various things, like instant hack tools, alternate ammo types, and sometimes even gene tonics. Plucking the Rosa Gallica from its bush, you return to Langford where she gets to work synthesizing it into a Lazarus vector, capable of reviving the forest and, by proxy, the oxygen supply. You arrive at Langford's lab, and...
Julie, we made a business deal, you and I, did we not? Money changed hands. Let me read to you from the agreement. Section 3, subsection 4.
Mr. Ryan.
Ryan Industries maintains exclusive rights to the creation, use, and exploitation of the Lazarus Vector. Ownership is civilization.
Wait! No! Please!
Without it, back in the swamp.
Mr.
With Langford's last message clear, you open the safe in her office and take the formula for her Lazarus Vector. There's barely enough time to process the ingredients, however, as a horde of splicers begin breaking into Langford's lab, intent on taking your head for Ryan. You thoroughly eviscerate your pursuers before Atlas chimes in with a hint about where to find some of the ingredients, a small offshoot of Arcadia called the Farmer's Market. Arriving through the bulkhead, your ingredient list involves 7 bottles of distilled water, 7 bottles of a chlorophyll solution, and 7 bottles of an enzyme sample. With some chlorophyll already found lying around in Arcadia, the distilled water and the enzyme samples are your main concern. Depending on your choice, you arrive at one of 2 locations, the winery or the apiary. The apiary is what you'd expect, multiple hives all set up with some, unfortunately, very hostile bees blocking your way to the enzymes required. Through the aid of some calming smoke, however, you have a short window to slip into the apiary and grab your fill of the enzyme. With 2 ingredients down, the last location left to search is the winery. This one's far simpler than the apiary, with the winery being a large building crawling with splicers and the bottles of water, either lying in plain sight or slightly hidden away. You use one of the many Univent machines to craft the Lazarus Vector, haul it all the way back up to Langford's lab, and place it into the central misting control in order to revive the trees. Unfortunately, it's going to take a bit before the Vector properly disperses, and Ryan's not quite as patient as you. It's then that he sends a few waves of splicers to try and finish you off, beginning a small section where you use every tool at your disposal to defend against oncoming waves of splicers. Decoys, proximity mines, there's even a Big Daddy wandering around at this point, which you can take under your control if you have the plasma to do so. After a few minutes that feel like hours, the Vector is finished, and a single flip of a switch sends it through the air, reviving the forest and ending the lockdown, keeping you from Ryan's front door.
Well done, lad. Take a deep breath and enjoy it.
Leaving the lab, you step into the bathysphere, heading straight for Ryan as you enter Frolic.
You're almost there. The sphere to Ryan is up on ahead.
Arriving at Fort Frolic, Atlas immediately chimes in to tell you how Ryan basically handed the keys to this place over to a man named Sander Cohen, an artist and, according to Atlas, a dangerous psychopath. You cut through the entrance of Fort Frolic, nearing a bathysphere, to an area called Hephaestus, when suddenly...
That's better. Atlas Ryan. Atlas Ryan. Da 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 da. Time-wise, you could get something decent on the radio. The artist has a duty to seduce the ear and delight the spirit. So say goodbye to those 2 blowhards, and hello to an evening with Sander Cohen.
Your straight path to Ryan's been derailed, and rather theatrically at that, with Sander Cohen replacing Atlas as your man in the chair, but instead of giving you pointers, you're forced to do whatever twisted deeds he has in store for you in the name of art. In an attempt to test your mettle, he sends a few spider splicers your way, which, when killed, earns you favor, and allows him to open the door to Fort Frolic proper.
Oh, I could smell the malt vinegar in this one. I've waited so long for something tasty to come to this little burg, but all that pass are yokels and rubes. Where are my manners? Come in! Come in! Sander Cohen awaits you at the Fleet Hall.
This is, bar none, my favorite level in Bioshock. Atmosphere, Cohen's bombastic and psychopathic personality, it all comes together like one fluid and very messed up stage play. With Cohen properly revealing his jamming of Ryan and Atlas's transmissions, he invites you to Fleet Hall for a show. Inside Fleet Hall, which turns out to be a theater, you can explore slightly, finding splicers to kill and machines to hack, along with a peek at Sander Cohen's dressing room.
Could you possibly think I would meet with my public now, when I'm preparing? Unbelievable.
Even if he's not the friendliest greeter. Arriving on the second floor, and the stage proper, you're met with the most aggressive tutoring session in the history of Rapture.
Presto, presto! No, no!
I'm trying. Please.
Once again, young Fitzpatrick. Da, 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 da. No!
Oh God, you sick fuck, let me out of there!
Come down now, little more. Life, death. The burden of the artist is to capture.
You take a photo of the burned remains, and as Cohen invites you to hang your masterpiece in the main hall, your purpose becomes clear. See, throughout the level so far, you can find audio logs from various people. Apparently, Cohen's former muses trapped within Fort Frolic for his own whims. With one dead in his final moments on film, your goal is to find the others, whoever they may be, and fill the rest of the frames with similarly grisly photos. Being gifted a new toy in the form of the crossbow, an accurate and deadly addition to your arsenal, you're properly invited to the next area, Poseidon Plaza. The entrance is completely frozen, bodies iced over and stuck into grim poses. Using Incinerate lets you melt the larger chunks of ice, freeing bodies to loot, and as you close in on the center, you begin to feel cold.
I feel great, finally sent someone. Son of a bitch, left me to freeze. I've got a pose all picked out for you.
Freeing yourself from your icy tomb, kill Finnegan, photograph his corpse, and proceed into Poseidon Plaza properly. Various stores and areas dot the 2 floors that make up the plaza, allowing for some exploration if you're feeling low on supplies or bustling with curiosity. Inside Rapture Records, you're taunted from afar by one Silas Cobb sending his kittens after you, before coming down to finish you himself. Kill him, take his photo, onwards and upwards. Coming across a gentleman's club by the name of Eve's Garden, you enter only to find something odd.
Well, if it isn't the long-lost Andrew Ryan. Come here, Tiger. I thought you had forgotten about poor Jasmine, but I am so glad you didn't.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ryan. I didn't know. I didn't know Fontaine had something to do with it. What are you doing? No, don't, please. I loved you. Don't, please. No.
Entering her bedroom, you find her corpse and a tape detailing just what got Ryan so murderous.
That creepy Dr. Tenenbaum promised me it wasn't going to be a real pregnancy. They just take the egg out once Mr. Ryan and I had... Oh, I needed the money so bad. But I know Mr. Ryan's gonna suss it out. Gonna know I wasn't being careful. Gonna know I sold the... Mr. Ryan's gonna be so mad at me.
It seems after a night of passion, Jasmine sold the fertilized egg to Tenenbaum, who we know was in cahoots with Fontaine. They were planning something alright, but what? Only time may tell. Oh, Right, we have people to murder. Hector Rodriguez, dead. Photo. Moving on. Adding the photos to the masterpiece, Chloe is pleased before briefly snapping and attempting to have us killed.
3 of 4. What's that look? You don't like it, do you? You don't need to be judged by you. By anyone. Screw you! Screw all you fucking doubters! Here's what I say to all of you!
With a half-serious apology, we finish Cohen's masterpiece, pleasing him so much that he even decides to come and view it in person.
Let me see it. My God, my God. It's beautiful. You'll find your path to Ryan is now clear.
The transmission jamming is finally gone, and with Atlas finally being able to talk to you again, finally pushes you towards the bathysphere heading to Hephaestus, essentially Ryan's front door.
Watch yourself. Ryan's stirring. We best keep to our knitting. It's time to either run the table or go home empty. Ryan's got the genetic key to Rapture. We get that from him, and we get out of this hellhole. We don't, then you and I are ghosts. Now, would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch? It's time to finish this.
Hephaestus, the core of Rapture. The sea around you lacks its usual blue tint, instead of vibrant orange from the geothermal vents powering the city. Deeper into the Devil's Palace, it's well guarded, as to be expected. You're powerful now, though, fighting through until you reach the hall just outside of Ryan's office. Bodies hang gruesomely from the walls, all fools stupid enough to march right up to the tyrant's front door, like you. Taking a tape from one of the corpses, you find that the way inside involves generating an overload in one of Hephaestus' cores, with more answers lying somewhere in heat loss monitoring. Wandering the maze-like brass halls, you find a tape in heat loss detailing the location of interest, a hidden workshop. Differing from the other levels in the game, Hephaestus is the only one where Ryan is an active presence and an active threat throughout the entire thing, occasionally chiming in to mock you or taunt your efforts as you scurry through his halls like a rat.
A man builds a city at the bottom of the sea. That's a marvel. Another man happens to be on a plane that crash lands on the same city in the middle of the ocean. Why, that sounds more like a miracle.
Not wrong. The oddities in your story don't just stop at the lumbering Frankenstein monsters in diving suits and the girls full of slugs. Pushing those questions to the back of your mind, the workshop in question turns out to be a hidden little crawl space, containing a half-finished bomb and a tape instructing you on how to finish said bomb.
The basic casing is ready. I've got 1 charge of nitroglycerin in my office. That will serve as the catalyst. Now, I need 4 R34 lead shield wire stubs to pass the circuit. Then a half can of ionic gel, that's the pretty Betty of the mix. Should send the core into compensation mode, push power down the line and trigger the circuit breaker on Ryan's gate. Well, that's the theory. It'll either work like a charm, or blow up half of Rapture. Nothing ventured.
The ingredients needed are nitroglycerin, R34 wire stubs, and ionic gel. The gel is simple enough, found lying throughout Hephaestus in a bright, obvious blue. If you did a bit of exploring, you may have stumbled across a tape detailing how the Big Daddies use the exact same wire stubs the bomb needs, but a corpse of a Big Daddy lying just outside the workshop containing one would clue you in all the same. Lastly, the nitroglycerin ends up being the easiest one to find, as the tape tells you it's in an office nearby. The office in question is full of tripwires, so approach with caution as you enter, or just use telekinesis on a corpse to defuse the wires. Assembling the ingredients together, you finish the bomb and carry it to geothermal control. the core of Hephaestus lying not that much further inside. Inside, you find the place flooded, and, with a little help from some magma, boil the water away to reach the core. Core now overloaded and Hephaestus going through absolute hell, you fight through one last onslaught of splicers to make it to Ryan, throwing the circuit breaker and finally reaching Rapture's central control, true heart of its city.
Even in the Book of Lies, sometimes you find truth. There is indeed a season for all things. And now that I see you flesh to flesh and blood to blood, I know I cannot raise my hand against you. But know this, you are my greatest disappointment. Does your master hear me? Atlas, you can kill me, but you will never have my city. My strength is not in steel and fire. That is what the parasites will never understand. A season for all things. A time to live and a time to die. A time to build and a time to destroy! Come now, my child. There is one final thing to discuss.
What? Ryan set the core to self-destruct. This is different than what you did. He's got a mind to take down the whole damn city. Get in there and whack the chunk before the whole joint blows!
You find a vent and crawl deeper into Ryan's lair, like a rat, coming across a very peculiar room and two important tapes that I'm just going to let play out in full.
Did you talk to your puppy? She's very pretty.
Thank you, Papa Sushant.
Break her neck for me.
What?
Break that sweet puppy's neck. No, please. Break that puppy's neck. Would you kindly? No. No. Very good.
Advanced deployment, Lot 111, Dr. Suchong, client Fontaine Futuristics. Baby is now a year old, weighs 58 pounds, and possesses gross musculature of a fit 19-year-old. The results are disappointing, but within expected tolerances.
Your mind hungers for answers, and down one last hallway, you receive them.
The assassin has overcome my final defense, and now he's come to murder me. In the end, what separates a man from a slave? Money? Power? No. A man chooses. A slave obeys. You think you have memories. A farm. A family. An airplane. A crash. And then this place. Was there really a family? Did that airplane crash? Or was it hijacked? Forced down. Forced down by something less than a man, something bred to sleepwalk through life until they are activated by a simple phrase spoken by their kindly master. Was a man sent to kill, or a slave? A man chooses. A slave obeys. Come in. Stop, would you kindly? Would you kindly? Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase.
Would you kindly? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find that? Would you kindly find? Would you kindly get this? Would you kindly head to Ryan's office and kill the son of a bitch?
Sit, would you kindly? Stand, would you kindly? Run! Stop! Turn. A man chooses. A slave obeys. Kill! A man chooses. A slave obeys. Obey!
Hurry now! Grab Ryan's genetic key! Now, would you kindly put it in that goddamn machine?
With Ryan finally dead at your feet and the genetic key to the city in your hands, you move to place it into the self-destruct override to finally end this chaos. That's when your good buddy Atlas decides to chime in.
Nice work, Bio. It's time to end this little masquerade. There ain't no Atlas kid. Never was. Selling my line of work takes on a variety of aliases. Hell, once I was even a Chinaman for 6 months. But you've been a sport, so I guess I owe you a little honesty. The name's Frank Fontaine. I gotta say, I had a lot of business partners in my life, but you, of course, the fact that you were genetically conditioned to bark like a cocker spaniel when I said, would you kindly, might have had something to do with it, but still. Now, as soon as that machine finishes processing the genetic key you just fished off Ryan, I'm gonna run Rapture tits to toes. You've been a pal. You know what they say? Never mix business with friendship. Thanks for everything, kid. Don't forget to say hi to Ryan for me.
Your mind reels from the shock, and with the help of some little sisters that you saved, you avoid the security measures, crawling through a vent and...
Welcome back, child. Welcome to the city where you were born. You are angry at Fontaine, yes? Now you know the truth. You are his tool, brought back to Rapture to save him. You have saved many of my little ones. I owe you a debt. While you sleep, I undo some of Fontaine's mental conditioning. His control is no longer complete, but he can still pull some very unpleasant strings. We made your mind with many locks and keys. Fontaine has most of those keys, but not all. Suchan designed your mind, taught Fontaine to
slept in Mercury Suites.
Depending on your actions, you're either met with gratitude or vitriol. Your life saved either way, and some of the conditioning keeping you in Fontaine's leash cut. The keyword there being some.
And now you've got hooked up with Tenenbaum, huh, kid? She's a regular Mother Goose. Alright, fun's fun, kid. But now, go get stepped on by a big daddy. Would you kindly? Huh? I says, would you kindly go get stepped on by a big daddy? Seems like Mother Goose has been playing around in your egg salad. If you won't dance to that tune, I got others. Code Yellow. I just told your brain to tell your heart to stop beating. Not right off the bat, mind you. The heart's a stubborn muscle, but it ain't that stubborn.
Your body is on a timer now, slowly dying as you attempt to find a cure for your ailment. Olympus Heights is rapture at its most broken down. Entire trams tipped off their tracks and destroyed, apartment complexes collapsed in on themselves, and splicers crawling out of every nook and cranny. It's clear that the war between Ryan and Fontaine was at its worst here, with you even being able to stumble across the corpse of a family who chose death by poison over the chaos of the war outside. Your first clue of a cure comes from a tape from one Dr. Suchong, the man who aided Fontaine alongside Tenenbaum in ensuring you were going to be the right tool for taking down Ryan. The man who turned you into a weapon.
Fontaine's become some kind of boogeyman in Rapture. That myth gives him power. But peel back flim flam and a humbug, he's just another conman. And like all conmen, he worries he'll end up on the wrong side of grift. That's why he commissioned Lot 192. The antidote to the mental control plasmid. Fontaine said I better not tell anybody about the antidote. Not even Tenenbaum. And Suchong is inclined to listen.
Following his scent upwards, you might be met with a familiar foe.
You're still testing your wings, animal. Stay and enjoy the dance, if you wish. But don't dare rattle their rhythm.
Interrupting this dance upsets Cohen and will lead to his death, but it also grants access to another upgrade machine, so I'd say it's worthwhile to put down a madman for your own benefit. You eventually arrived at Tenenbaum's old home, but it's in ruins. Bookshelves thrown around and walls graffitied by Fontaine's goons. Thinking faster than you, Tenenbaum tells you to find Fontaine's place, as they likely took the cure up to his penthouse. There's only one small problem. The elevator to his penthouse is locked with passcode unknown, except for a conveniently nosy reporter, a tape lying next to his body and telling you the answer. Paparazzi actually being good for something is the most unrealistic part of this game so far. Exploring Fontaine's penthouse, you can find the cure, Lot 192, and drink it, which does start to break Fontaine's control at the cost of some pretty wild side effects, randomizing the loadout of your plasmids until you get a second dose from Dr. Suchong's lab. Heading down the elevator, you enter the bulkhead to another section of the city, Apollo Square. If Olympus Heights was in disrepair, then Apollo Square is in ruins. More rubble than city as posters of faces line the cracked walls, unclear if they're missing people or wanted posters. A tape line close to the entrance sets the tone and confirms that something terrible happened here.
I was so angry when I came down here, but my God, I had no idea. There's armed men all over the place. I saw a woman climb over the fence trying to escape. One of Ryan's guards pointed at her and she lit on fire. Just like that. What's happening here?
You make your way through the destroyed remains of the metro, killing splicers that block the way before coming to the apartments where Dr. Suchong's room lies. Bracing yourself for an encounter, you open the door to his corpse. A tape provides some context for the doctor's last moments.
Clinical trial protector system, plasmid lot 255. Dr. Suchong, Client Ryan Industries. Very frustrating day. I can't seem to get the damn big daddies to imprint on the little brats. The protection bond is just not forming. Get away. Maybe if I modify the genetic sequence... Shush! The sequence to allow for... Get away, you filthy little shit! What? What are you doing? Get back! Get back!
Downing another dose of Lot 192, the plasmids return to normal, and your ties to Fontaine are fully broken. There's only one thing left to do. Find Fontaine and point Prometheus and end this. As you head down the elevator to the bathysphere, Fontaine has some choice words to leave you on.
Broke the spell! But laying all your chips on Mother Goose? It's not like you never been double-crossed before. You know what I'm saying? Off at the point, Prometheus. We'll discuss this like men. You, me, a submarine topside, and more at him than you can possibly imagine.
What is this you wait for? Go and get this idiot!
Chasing after Fontaine, he's quick to slip through the cracks and just out of your hands. Luckily, Tannenbaum has an idea, even if it's not the most orthodox one. You're going to have to become a Big Daddy. The process is surprisingly simple, plucking the suit system control from a corpse before going to find it. Everything that makes a Big Daddy, a Big Daddy. First, you head into the educational facility, looking to get your hands on some pheromones to properly smell the part. Without them, the little sisters would know you're just a stranger wearing a suit, not a proper guardian. The facility itself is strange, looking more like a hospital than anything, with occasional rows of rooms lining the halls for children that once lived inside. Posters are dotted around, some depicting corpses as angels, and there's even a small set of 2 screens with 2 buttons. One depicting a Big Daddy, and the other a mother. While the Big Daddy button awards you with some snack food, the other delivers a painful shock. I guess they have to teach him young. Now smelling absolutely foul, your next goal is to explore the other 2 labs, one for the bodysuit and one for the voice box. Deciding that the suit is your next best choice, you enter fail-safe armored escorts to find the parts. Each part adds to you in some way. The helmet distorts your vision with a slight fisheye filter, and the bodysuit grants a whopping 25% damage reduction. The boots would have given your footsteps a booming sound, if they didn't accidentally get shipped off to the library by mistake.
God damn it! The Big Daddy boots need to be shipped here, not the damn library. What kind of idiot is Ryan hiring nowadays? This kind of bullshit never happened on the Fontaine.
No, Suchong is right. How does that even happen? Turning to leave this workshop of horror, you might stumble across a tape from Andrew Ryan, displaying an emotion you didn't think it was possible for him to even feel. Regret.
Could I have made mistakes? One does not build cities if one is guided by doubt. But can one govern in absolute certainty? I know that my beliefs have elevated me just as I know that the things I have rejected would have destroyed me. But the city, it's collapsing before my... Have I become so convinced by my own beliefs that I have stopped seeing the truth? Perhaps. But Atlas is out there, and he aims to destroy me and to destroy my city. To question is to surrender. I will not question.
Before you get your boots, it'd be a shorter walk to get your voice box, heading down to Optimize Eugenics to do so. Finding the incredibly painful looking machine, you alter your larynx in a way that's hopefully not permanent, and head your way back to the library in order to find the boots. With your suit complete, it's on to the Proving Grounds, a sort of trial for big daddies who have just finished their painful alterations. It just so happens to also lead directly up to where Fontaine is. Banging on one of the hidey holes with your wrench, you called on Little Sister in order to have her open the doors ahead. The Proving Grounds is essentially an escort mission, with you needing to keep the Little Sister alive and healthy so she can open doors for you and you can progress, with her taking semi-often breaks in order to refuel on Adam from corpses. If you've properly made a build and gotten comfortable with the hacking, then this level ends up being no problem. The only real issue being that you may run out of ammo fighting off the splicers that come to attack your Little Sister for Adam. Fighting off splicers, rival Big Daddies sick of you stealing their jobs, and Fontaine's constant bickering, you arrive at Fontaine's front door with your Little Sister in tow. It's then that she grants you your very own ace in the hole, her harvesting needle. Tenenbaum says that you can use it to drain the Adam from Fontaine's blood, as he's been juicing on it to try and prepare for your arrival. This is it, your final showdown with Fontaine.
Remember when me and the crowd put you in that sub? You were no more than 2. You were my ace in the hole, but you were also the closest thing I ever had to a son. And that's why this hurts. Betrayal, kid. Life ain't strictly business.
The boss fight against Fontaine is nothing like your typical splicer. The amount of raw Adam surging through his body, making him into a towering monolith of elemental power that he, thankfully, breaks up into phases. First assaulting you with flames, then ice, then electricity. Each one equal amounts of deadly, but with rising desperation. He's not here to play fair either, splicers swarming you and security alarms blaring as bots fire at you. Thankfully, if you run low on supplies, Little Sisters may be able to peek from the hidey holes around the map and taught you first aid or heal, keeping you in the fight for a bit longer. Thankfully, Fontaine's power through Adam has its drawbacks, as he can't fight you for too long without needing to recharge in a large machine designed to splice him to perfection. This leaves him open for another stab from your needle. The fight is long and heavy, but you manage to pull through, draining Fontaine's Adam one last time to finally...
You built! I sent you topside! I called you back, showed you what you was capable of! Even that life you thought you had, that was something I dreamed up and had tattooed inside your head! Now if you don't call that family, I don't know what is!
It's here that your path diverges. Depending on your choices throughout the game, either harvesting the Little Sisters you've come across or saving them, the ending drastically changes. I'll let the good ending play first, as it's the canon ending, before letting the bad ending play.
They offered you this city. And you refused it. And what did you do instead? What I've come to expect of you. You saved them. You gave them the one thing that was stolen from them. A chance. A chance to learn. To find love. To live. And in the end, what was your reward? You never said. But I think I know. A family. They offered you everything, yes. And in return, you gave them what I have come to expect of you. Brutality. You took what you wanted. All the atom, all the power. And the Rapture trembled. But in the end, even the Rapture was not enough for you. Your father was terrified the world would try to steal the secrets of his city. But not you, for now you have stolen the terrible secrets of the world.
A father or a tyrannical ruler. How your legacy endures is all up to you and your choices. Now that the game's story has finally come to a close, it's time we pull back from the world of Bioshock and see how the gaming world at large felt about Rapture and its story. To absolutely no surprise, the game was met with incredibly high praise upon release, game review outlets rating it 9s and 10s out of 10 right out of the gate. It was a breath of fresh air into the then niche genre of horror FPS, along with being a great shooter in of itself. However, unlike System Shock 2, its critical reception was also matched by its sales, selling over 2.2 million copies over the course of a year from its release, and being the Xbox 360's third best-selling game for 2007, not repeating the same mistakes of its predecessor. It also won just so many awards, like a comical amount. Let's go through the list. Spike TV gave it Game of the Year, Best Xbox 360 Game, and Best Original Score. It won the BAFTA Best Game Award. XPlay gave it Game of the Year, Best Soundtrack, Best Writing, and Best Art Design. Game Informer gave it Game of the Year. IGN gave it Game of the Year. I could seriously go on for a few more straight minutes of just singing the praises that this game earned for its outstanding performance. Bioshock was also one of the biggest cases for video games being considered as art, with it being one of the picks for the 2011 Smithsonian exhibit to the art of video games, and its ideas of the illusion of control throughout the story being praised by countless authors. The story is probably the central reason for its incredible reception, themes of freedom and control layered throughout it like a cake of symbolism, so let's go a little bit deeper into the meanings, diving into the inky blackness and see if we can find ourselves our very own City of Dreams. At its core, Bioshock is a game about freedom. Rapture, as a city, was created through Andrew Ryan's desire for freedom from the men he saw as parasites on the surface, those who use science and innovation to harm and seize what was theirs. In his pursuit of his own freedom, however, he ended up losing what truly mattered to him, what he created Rapture for. He became a tyrant, totally and utterly, ruling everyone with a fistful of iron and letting the society of Rapture fall to ruin as long as he maintained control. It can be argued that every character in the game is looking for their own personal freedom. Artistic, scientific, medical, political, or even literal freedom from the underwater prison that this City of Dreams had become. Ryan's desire for freedom had eventually mutated into one for control, which is something else many characters desire. In fact, many of their freedoms simply involve having control over others. Control over the very codes that make us human in pursuit of some greater purpose, as if fleeing from the flaws of humanity. But that's the problem. The very flaws that make us human also get in the way of any sort of perfection, genetic or otherwise. Humans will always seek to destroy. It's the same law of nature that makes bees pollinate and ants wander in circles until death. Murder, greed, lust, people are sick and twisted, but you're an exception. At least, if you choose to be. In a sea full of murderers and psychopaths, you alone were the kind soul willing to lead others to salvation, a savior in a world full of sinners. Though, again, This is only true if you decided to choose it, decided to choose a lesser reward in a place where only the strongest survive, just to save a life. In less than a decade from its construction, Rapture went from a promising beacon of innovation to a ruin full of drugged-up murderers. Just what happened to lead us here? What transpired at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean? For answers, we'll have to scour tapes, details, descriptions, and even scrape at some games in the series we haven't touched just yet, just to find the truth about what caused Rapture's fall. In 1919, a young boy by the name of Andrei Ryanovsky fled Russia in the wake of communist uprising, setting sail to America in hopes that the land of the free would live up to its name. And, for a time, it did, as Andrei changed his name to Andrew Ryan and began to work, founding Ryan Oil and getting a large foothold of America's coal supply. His life in Russia had led Ryan to despise those who reap the rewards from others' work, calling them parasites and deeming them unfit to the luxuries that America would provide, even burning down a large forest he owned as a personal retreat after the government attempted to establish a public park there. No parasites would ever have a taste of Ryan's fortune. Around this time, during the midst of World War II, young Brigitte Tenenbaum is taken prisoner at Auschwitz, where she discovers a penchant for science, correcting any mistakes that the Germans made and soon earning their favor, even as her family was put to death. She didn't care, for she found her calling, earning the name Das Wunderkind for her skill. As World War II reaches its end, Hiroshima is bombed by the US in order to put an end to their war efforts. This act, however, is Ryan's final straw about parasites, now having the ability to destroy anything they can't own, using noble ideals like science for their own corrupt gain. He decides to create a paradise for fellow visionaries like himself, a land where artists wouldn't fear the censor, where the great wouldn't be constrained by the small. Using his fortune, Ryan used the identity Warden Yarn to buy the materials needed to construct Rapture, a city under the waves of the Atlantic Ocean where no government laws could restrain him. It was around this time that a young street urchin left his life behind in an orphanage to make something for himself, being a stagehand for 3 years where he learned how to easily charm an audience through acting and disguises. Going by the name Frank, the thug had an assortment of last names that he switched between to avoid trouble, but the current one he was using was Gorland. After conning a bar owner out of his own bar, Frank Gorland used it for passive income and for rumors about rigged bets which he could get filthy rich off of. It was then that a federal agent by the name of Voss confronted him. Threatening to expose his past and have Gorland locked up for good, he forced Gorland to find information about Andrew Ryan's mysterious North Atlantic project. After a drunkard tipped him off to the docks, Frank interrogated a deckhand about the project to learn that it was, in fact, an underwater city. Learning about a smuggler who knew the inside of Rapture through smuggling fish, Gorland soon confronted, killed, and assumed the identity of said smuggler, a man by the name of Fontaine. Using his new identity well, Fontaine sent gifts of fish to Ryan's men, each shipment accompanying a letter praising Ryan and his ideals. In actuality, Fontaine saw the blossoming city as the ultimate con, and with Ryan's approval, he was in. Frank Fontaine was invited to Rapture for business. As Rapture was constructed, Ryan set out to find people to fill it, only the best and brightest of the world. Surgeons, artists, scientists, anyone whose visions were grand enough to finally be realized without the pesky things like morals or limits, were invited to join his city under the sea. And then, as Rapture was finished, those invited left for the city, accidentally inciting panic from the surface, as countless brilliant minds suddenly vanished out of nowhere, and leading to an event called The Vanishing. As Tenenbaum was getting acquainted to her new home in Rapture, she stumbled across a dock worker who, after getting bit by a sea slug, discovered his crippled hands were working good as new. This slug was filled with Adam, an incredible substance that could directly alter the DNA of whatever it entered. Wanting funding for research, Tenenbaum was turned away by every facility she went to until one man stepped forward to offer her funding, Frank Fontaine. Founding a new business explicitly for atom research by the name of Fontaine Futuristics, Tenenbaum worked beside Dr. Yi Suchong, helping her discover that the slugs had a far greater potential for atom production if they were planted within the stomach of a human host. Strangely, however, the only proper hosts were found to be young girls. In an attempt to secure a steady stream of hosts, Fontaine then opened the Little Sisters Orphanage, a charity that was a front for their experimentation. Through the discovery of Adam, Tenenbaum then skyrocketed to be one of the most important figures in Rapture, neglecting to tell the public about Adam's addictive nature and its terrifying bouts of withdrawal. Through Adam, Rapture thrived. Scientific advancements decades, maybe even centuries ahead, all at the citizens' fingertips, as they were able to modify their genome at their whims for a plethora of effects, be it instant slumming, telekinesis, or even flames sprouting from their fingertips. Artists like Sander Cohen created entire films and musicals under the waves, businesses thrived, and people were content. At first, Ryan saw Fontaine as the shining example of Rapture's philosophy, a man who had pulled himself up by his bootstraps to become a major figurehead in a business. He even defended him, telling those who complained of Adam's downsides to simply provide a better product. I mean, the man had even opened a home for the poor at this point. How could he be anything less than a saint? It was only then that Ryan discovered the criminal underbelly of Fontaine's doings. After a few investigations into Fontaine's smuggling ring got it shut down for good, Fontaine realized he needed a backup plan for his con, an ace in the hole. So, with the help of Tenenbaum and Suchong, Fontaine tracked down an exotic dancer by the name of Jasmine Jolene, who had recently been intimate with Ryan and now held his child within her. Coaxing her into selling the embryo, Jasmine sold her unborn child as she was in desperate need for cash. Ryan, however, wasn't one for being betrayed and decided to kill Jasmine himself. But why did Fontaine need Ryan's child? Well, the security systems and control to the city's infrastructure were tied directly to Ryan's genetic code. So, by claiming his unborn child, they essentially had a living key to the city for the taking. Through Suchong's knowledge of genetic and psychological manipulation, the Ace, now nicknamed Jack, was injected with several concoctions, one of which would speed up his aging to the point where he resembled a fit 19-year-old at age 2, and another would make him completely subservient to the user of a special code phrase. Would you kindly? The tension between Ryan and Fontaine came to a boiling point, and, in 1958, Frank Fontaine, along with a few others, was slaughtered in a bloody shootout against the chief of security. Turning his back on his own beliefs, Ryan claimed, and shortly thereafter, nationalized Fontaine Futuristics into Ryan Industries. Following this, Tenenbaum disappeared from the public, silently working on a cure to the little monster she had helped to create. However, Fontaine, as we know, survived, using a body double to undergo a new identity as the people's hero, a man named Atlas, but not before sending his ace in the hole up to the surface world to lie in wait. Helping the poor and rallying those who had been exploited by the system of Rapture, Atlas's forces gathered weapons in order to incite a dangerous next step to his long con, the Rapture Civil War. Atlas versus Ryan. Because of the now frequent and violent use of plasmids and splicing, Adam was in a higher demand than ever, with Ryan Industries even kidnapping children off the street to forcibly convert them into little sisters. Suchong, in his twisted brilliance, found a way to increase Adam output by having the little sisters drink the blood of dead splicers, by using mental conditioning to have them see the ruined Rapture as a pleasant wonderland, and the corpses they drank from as angels. The raw Adam in the Little Sister systems essentially made them unkillable via instantaneous regeneration, but that didn't stop Little Sisters from being captured or exploited, so Suchong decided they needed some kind of guardian figure. Thus, Suchong began work on the Big Daddies, heavily modified splicers grafted to the inside of specialized armored diving suits, both psychologically and chemically bonded to their little sisters through mental conditioning and pheromones, respectively. Suchong started his experiments with the Alpha series, which is the story for another time, before moving on to the standard Big Daddy models seen in the game. Still fighting the war and struggling to turn the tide, Suchong had an idea, proposing an alteration to the commercial plasmids used in the war that would slip in a pheromone to make the users all subservient to Ryan. Ryan, at his wits' end and desperate to end this war, stated that if Atlas did not surrender, his men would all become subservient, stripping their free will and finally becoming a tyrant to the masses of Rapture, the freedom he so wanted, now gone to the tides of the ocean. Now with no other option, Atlas finally called in his ace in the hole, Jack, having them board a plane that would be flying directly above Rapture with the sole intention of crashing it, allowing Ryan's bastard son to enter the city and finally to end the war. Do I even have to say that this game is a masterpiece? I didn't just talk for over an hour now to say that. Along with being a great game that you absolutely have to experience if you already haven't, Bioshock holds a really special place in my heart due to it being one of the first games I ever played. Around the age of 8 or so, I was taken to GameStop following an all A's report card and told I can choose any game on the shelf, and being a fan of horror at an early age, I chose the one with a cool diver guy on the cover and got to take it home. Slowly, over the course of a week, I played and eventually beat Bioshock all by my little self, my first ever game, and what a fucking way to start, right? I was exposed to such violence, such brutality, body horror, sexual themes, political themes, and I loved every single second of it, even if I didn't even understand a lot of it. It was also my first ever exposure to a plot twist, so you can imagine an 8-year-old me sitting on a couch, way past my bedtime, and silently freaking the hell out as Fontaine revealed himself. From that point onwards, my very life became Bioshock, buying up any merch my mom would find / allow me, even dressing up as a splicer for one Halloween, much to every single adult's confusion. Imagine a kid dressed in baggy formal wear, stained in blood, wearing a bunny opera mask, holding a metal pipe, asking you for candy in a broken Cockney accent. A haunting mental image, I know. Even today, I'm still in love with the series, often coming back to the remastered collection to replay it every now and then. I'm even excited for the Netflix Bioshock thing that's apparently in production, albeit a bit wearily. Production hell all over again. But Bioshock's legacy doesn't just end at its first game. No, not at all. See, it was just the first in a fantastic trilogy, and I cannot wait to get into what's in store next. In fact, how about a little peek? Hey there, thanks for watching. This was a pretty big undertaking as my first video on the channel, and I learned a lot while making it. First off, huge thanks to Padlog TV here on YouTube for their incredible Bioshock footage and for letting me use it. If you made it this far, you probably like my content, and that's good because I have a ton more in store. So feel free to like, subscribe, share this video among your friends who like video essay content, and maybe even toss $1 or $2 into my Ko-fi for feeling generous. And, of course, thanks for coming into the Pink Cafe for a spoonful.